Number 13 gives us two binomials being multiplied together. So I could FOIL, or I could realize that I could use the shortcut on this one because I have 3 radical 5, 3 minus radical 5, and then 3 plus radical 5. I recognize those are difference of perfect squares, are also called conjugates. So I only have to do the F and the L. I can do a shortcut on this one. I only can do the first and the last terms. So my first terms are going to give me 3 times 3, which is 9. And my last terms, negative radical 5 times radical positive 5 is going to give me a negative radical 25. And I know the square root of 25 is 5, so I'm looking at 9 minus 5, and that's going to give me an answer of 4. All right, number 15, I do not have conjugates here, so I'm going to have to do the whole entire FOIL. So let's multiply our first terms. So that's going to be these two guys. So I'm going to multiply my outside numbers of 3 and 3, which is going to give me 9. And radical 3 times radical 2 is going to give me radical 6. And then I'm going to do my outside terms. So this outside multiplied by this guy. Let's do our outside terms first of 3 and 4. That's going to give us 12. And radical 3. Let's do our inside terms now. Let's multiply the outside numbers first. So negative 5 and 3 are going to give me negative 15. And radical 6 times radical 2 is going to give me radical 12. And now let's do our last terms, these two guys. And that's going to give me negative 5 times 4, which is negative 20, radical 6. Now we're going to see if we can combine any of these or break any of the radicals down. First, I'm realizing that I have a radical 6 here and a radical 6 here, so I can combine those. So I can say that negative 20 radical 6 and a 9 radical 6 are going to combine to give me a negative 11 radical 6. So I'm just going to kind of cross these guys out because I know that I've already mathed those together. All right, this radical 3 and this radical 12 can't go together, but there's a chance that I can break this one down and see if there's any pairs that I can pull out of that radical 12. So I'm going to show what that looks like down here. I know I'm going to have a 4 and a 3, so these 4s are going to come out as a pair of 2s. So those are going to come out of the house. But I already have this negative 15 here, so I'm going to multiply those two together. So that's going to turn into negative 30 on the outside. And this 3 stayed on the inside of the house, so that's going to stay there. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my 12 radical 3. And then I recognize that these two guys can also be combined. So I'm going to rewrite my negative 11 radical 6. And then I'm going to say negative 30 plus 12, which is negative 18 radical 3. 17 is a division problem, so I recognize that I can't have a radical in my denominator or bottom number, so I need to rationalize the denominator or get rid of it by multiplying the top and the bottom by the whatever's on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply top by radical 9x as well. And on the bottom, remember that two radicals multiplied together just means it comes out of the radical sign, so I'm going to have a 9x on the bottom. And 6 times 9 is going to be 54x. And now we can start to break down the 54. So I'm finding two things that multiply to 54. Let's use 9 and 6. That's going to give me a pair of 3s that are going to come out of the house. So that's going to turn into 3 radical. This guy stays inside of the house. And I'm going to have my x still in the house because there was only one of them. And that's going to be all over 9x. So notice that 3 and 9 are on the outside, and they're both divisible by 3. So I can say 3 goes into 3 one time. So my top will just be radical 6x. And then 3 goes into 9 3 times, so 3x. All right, looking at number 19, I do have a radical in the bottom, so in order to get rid of it, I'm going to have to multiply by the whole entire conjugate of the bottom. So instead of 2 minus radical 15, the conjugate is going to be 2 plus radical 15, and I'm going to multiply that on the top and the bottom. All right, so looking at the top, this 3 is going to distribute to both of those terms. So 3 times 2 is going to give me 6 plus 3 radical 15. Remember, I can't multiply those because one's inside the radical and one's outside of the radical. And on bottom, remember that I have conjugates, so I can do the shortcut of just doing F and L. So my first 2 terms are going to be 2 and 2. That's going to be 4. And my last 2 terms are going to be negative radical 15 and positive radical 15. So I know that's going to come out of the house, and it's going to be negative 15. So what I'm looking at is 6 plus 3 radical 15 over 4 minus 15, which is going to give me a negative 11. All right, so next you would want to look at all of the outside numbers, which are 6, 3, and negative 11, and see if they have anything that they can all be divided by. And I know 11's prime and 3 is prime, so that's not going to be the case. So this is actually simplified as far as it will go.